Namaskar. Welcome to the episode on Tourism in Australia, Part 2. Hello viewers. Welcome to the series of lectures on tourism in Australia. In Part 2 of the topic, we are discussing on the following 5 subtopics as follows. Tourism and its growth in Australia, natural tourism resources in Australia, man-made tourism resources in Australia, tourist transportation and travel formalities. Coming to tourism in Australia. Tourism in Australia is an important component and major contributor for Australian economy. Tourism has created more than 500,000, that is 5 lakh, direct and indirect jobs for Australians, which is 5% of total workforce in the country. In the year 2014-15, tourism contributed 3% share in Australian economy, making it number 1 service export. Australia has witnessed increase in the number of tourist arrivals, with around 7.4 million tourists visited in the year 2015. Tourism as Australia's successful marketing campaigns are also contributed immensely in achieving this goal. Some of the successful campaigns such as No Leave, No Life, launched in 2009, contributed for an increase of domestic tourism. Tourism Australia's latest marketing campaign, There is Nothing Like Australia, has been launched and invites international tourists into Australia. Australia Tourism has implemented a strategy, Tourism 2020, for the integrated development of tourism in the country. Tourism 2020 is a government and industry long-term strategy to build the resilience and competitiveness of Australia's tourism industry and grow its economic contribution. The Tourism 2020 aims to achieve more tourist spending in Australia with the help of joint efforts by Australian tourism industry and federal, state and territory governments. The Tourism 2020 goal is to achieve more than $115 billion in overnight spend by 2020 by the way of enhancing the economic benefits of tourism. Australia is the smallest continent in the world but richest in its tourism resources. Australia has different types of tourist attractions due to its large size and different geographical features. Country has wilderness areas with typical wildlife, deserts, snow-covered mountain peaks, plain land with low altitudes, coral reefs, beautiful beaches and modern cosmopolitan cities. Some of the popular and most visited tourist attractions of Australia are coastal cities like Sydney and Melbourne, tourism resource-rich territories like Queensland, Victoria, Gold Coast and naturally rich island state Tasmania, Kakadu National Park and Uluru-Kata National Park in northern region. Coming to tourism resources. Resources of a country which create opportunities for offering any tourism products or activities can be termed as tourism resources. Natural tourism resources in Australia. Natural tourism resources in any region or country are given by nature and no man has created these resources. Natural resources are gifted by nature and some of these resources are non-renewable resources. Sustainable use of natural resources can maximize the benefits to the community as well as preservation of these resources for future generation. Natural resources are fragile, pristine and sensitive in nature such as rivers, lakes, coastal areas, sea and oceans, mountains, forest, wildlife, etc. Australia is a rich country with ample natural tourism resources. Australia's 2 natural spots were nominated for new 7 Wonders of Nature among 28 finalists. Those are Great Barrier Reef and Uluru. Let us discuss on some of the natural tourist attractions of Australia. Great Barrier Reef. Great Barrier Reef is the largest reef in the world with the rich and unique marine life. Great Barrier Reef is the only living thing on Earth visible from space. Reef was born almost 25 million years ago. The world's largest reef system that stretches for 3,000 kilometers off the coast to Queensland has 400 different types of coral and 1,500 species of tropical fish. Underwater life in Great Barrier Reef is unique, beautiful but precious. Reef is greatly threatened by pollution and increased tourism, resulting excess carrying capacity in the sea. Great Barrier Reef needs to be developed under sustainable tourism practices which trying to reduce the negative impacts on this sensitive and precious natural spot. Tourism needs to be conducted in small scale and tourist activities need to be monitored, controlled by the way, making it environmentally responsible tourism. Uluru. Uluru is monolith sandstone and also a sacred site to the indigenous Anangu people who request individuals not to climb the sandstone. Uluru-Kata is located 450 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs in the Uluru-Kata Juta National Park. A massive monolith is 348 meters high with a circumference of 9.4 kilometers. The sandstone is famous for its different shades of color that turns in different conditions, particularly at sunrise and sunset. Driving in the highway that passes through Uluru-Kata Juta National Park is also an adventurous and thrilling experience for tourists visiting this region. 12 Apostles. 12 Apostles is a collection of limestone stacks carved out of cliff because of erosion by seawater. These limestone stacks of different shape and size are viewable by the Great Ocean Road runs off the Victorian coast. When the stacks were named, there were 9 apostles, but currently there are 8 apostles, where the 9th one collapsed in 2005 because of erosion. The erosion continues because of the high tides and their base erodes at a rate of 2 centimeters a year. Fraser Island. Fraser Island is the largest sand island in the world with an area of almost 1,800 square kilometers. Fraser Island is situated in the east coast of Australia to the southern tip of Queensland state. This sand island spread is 123 kilometers in length and up to 22 kilometers wide, lies at the end of the Great Sandy Strait. One can see unique vegetation grown on sand. In fact, this is the only sand island in the world which has rainforest and mangrove forest in it. Island also has more than 100 beautiful freshwater lakes and a diverse wildlife including dingoes. Fraser Island is popular for tourist activities like ecotourism, camping, swimming in the freshwater lakes and nature-based tourism. The island has inscribed as World Heritage Site in 1992 under Natural Heritage category. Kakadu. Kakadu National Park is a protected area located in the Northern Territory within the Alligators River region. The park encompasses an area of 20,000 square kilometers, rich with ecological and biological diversity. Kakadu National Park is home for 4 major river systems, 6 major landforms and remarkable variety of wildlife such as birds, mammals, reptiles, plants and freshwater species. Kakadu National Park is not only rich with natural resources, but also it has long settlement of Aboriginal people. Park has several rock carvings dates back to thousands of years. Animal hunters and then Aboriginals settled in this region about 40,000 years ago. park has some historical monuments, rock caves and Aboriginal community living in it and their culture. Kakadu National Park is also listed as UNESCO World Heritage Site under Natural Heritage category. Blue Mountains. Blue Mountains is a mountain range located in the state of New South Wales in Australia and 50 kilometers west of the state capital of Sydney. Mountain range is a part of Great Dividing Range and home for beautiful landscapes, rivers and lakes, eucalyptus forest. Blue Mountains inhabited by Gundungurra and Darug Aboriginal people thousands of years ago. Its close proximity to state capital and major city in Australia makes it a popular tourism spot. Australian Alps. The Australian Alps is the highest mountain range in Australia and part of Great Dividing Range. The range is located in southeastern Australia, covering portion of 3 territories of Australia such as Eastern Victoria, Southeastern New South Wales and the Australian Capital Territory. The Australian Alps is the only mountain peak in the country exceeding 2,000 meters, that is 6,600 feet in elevation above sea level and deep snow-covered peaks. The Australian Alps is the home for ski and adventure activities which receives good numbers of domestic as well as international tourists. European tourists prefer these mountain peaks for ski activities. Ningaloo Coast. The Ningaloo Coast is a reef located in the northwest coastal region of Western Australia inscribed as World Heritage Site. Ningaloo is very rich biodiversity area located approximately 1,200 kilometers north of Perth along the East Indian Ocean. The distinctive Ningaloo Reef that fringes the Ningaloo Coast is 260 kilometers long and is Australia's largest fringing coral reef and the only large reef positioned very close to a mainland of Australia. Ningaloo Coast is rich in coral, fish species and aquatic life. Kangaroo Island. Kangaroo Island is Australia's third largest island after Tasmania and Melville Island. It lies in the state of South Australia, 112 kilometers southwest of Adelaide. The island was inhabited by Aboriginal people several thousand years ago, but native people disappeared from the land when it became an island due to rise in the sea level. It was subsequently resettled by the sealers and whalers and then as part of the colony of South Australia from early 19th century onwards. Now, island's economy has been principally dependent on agricultural, fishery and with tourism growing in importance. The largest town and the administrative centre is Kingscote. Man-made tourism resources in Australia. Australia, though recognized as a country with great natural beauty, also has its share of man-made wonders. The native Aboriginal people have not constructed any marvelous architectural buildings, but it is foreign invaders who established colonies in Australia contributed immensely in making these man-made resources. Native Aborigines have made rock-cut art in places where they lived. Let us discuss some of the popular man-made tourism resources of Australia. Australian Convict Sites. Australian Convict Sites is a series of 11 penal sites built by British to prison the convicts. These sites were mostly built in coastal strips of New South Wales, Tasmania, Norfolk Island and Fremantle during 18th and 19th centuries. Australia has been used as dumping ground of convicts from other parts of the world for several years by the British. These sites built by them were used as prisons for convicts. Convict sites are architecturally beautiful with Victorian and other European architecture styles and also tell stories of prisoners their sufferings to the visitors. Totally 11 convict sites are inscribed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites in a single group. Those 11 sites are as follows: Old Government House in New South Wales, Cockatoo Island Convict Site in New South Wales, Great North Road in New South Wales, Hyde Park Barracks in New South Wales, Brickenden and Woolmer's Estates in Tasmania, Cascades Female Factory in Tasmania, Coal Mines Historic Sites in Tasmania, Darlington Probation Station in Tasmania, Port Arthur in Tasmania, Kingston and Arthur's Vale Historic Area in Norfolk Island, and Fremantle Prison in Western Australia. Sydney Opera House. Sydney Opera House is a performing arts centre famous for its expressionist architecture style and most recognised symbol of Australia. The construction of Opera House started in 1959 and completed in 1973. Opera House has been designed by the Danish architect John Utzon. Opera House looks more beautiful from the Sydney harbour. This popular building is also inscribed as UNESCO World Heritage Site in the year 2007 under Cultural category. Opera House has multi-theatres and venues for performing arts. This houses several shows every day for tourists as well as art lovers. Performing venues and seating capacity of Sydney Opera House is as follows. Concert Hall is the largest theatre in Sydney Opera House with a seating capacity of 2,679 audience at a time. Joanne Sutherland Theatre is the second biggest venue with 1,507 seats. Drama Theatre is a venue for drama and performing arts like dances with 544 seats. Playhouse has the seating capacity of 398 audiences. Studio is a venue with flexible space with 280 permanent seats and can be extended to 400 based on the changing seating configuration. Hudson Room is the venue named after the architect of this building. It's a small multi-purpose venue for parties, corporate functions and small productions. Sydney Harbour Bridge. The Sydney Harbour Bridge is the fourth longest spanning arch bridge in the world construction, completed in the year 1932 and celebrated its 75th anniversary in 2007. The Sydney Harbour Bridge, constructed across the Sydney Harbour that carries rail, vehicular, bicycle and pedestrian traffic between Sydney Central Business District and North Shore. For tourists, there is a walk up the southern side of the bridge known as Bridge Climb, which provides wonderful views of the harbour and the Opera House below. The bridge is popularly called as the Coat Hanger because of its arch-based design, or is simply called the Bridge by Sydney residents. The beautiful view of Bridge, the harbour and Sydney Opera House is an iconic image of Sydney tourism. Great Ocean Road. The Great Ocean Road is 243 km long scenic coastal highway in southeastern coast of Australia between Victorian cities of Torquay to Warrnambool. This glorious road has been constructed by returned soldiers between 1919 to 1932 and dedicated to soldiers killed in the World War I. The Great Ocean Road is the most scenic highway in the world, which has number of prominent tourist attraction though the road including the 12 Apostles limestone stacks. Most part of the highway runs parallel to coastal zone and has beautiful beaches, surf zones and adventure spots. Driving the road is really thrilling and adventurous. A 45 km long the Great Ocean Road Marathon is also an interesting annual event in the section of road between Lorne and Apollo Bay. Royal Botanic Gardens. Royal Botanic Gardens are the internationally renowned botanical gardens in the Melbourne city of Australia. Royal Botanical Gardens are situated in two different places of the city. First one, 32 hectares garden, is in the centre of the Melbourne city, and the other one, 363 hectare landscaped garden, situated in the suburb of Melbourne in Cranbourne. These gardens are considered Australia's best and one of the world's best landscape gardens. Royal Botanic Gardens house hundreds of native and exotic plant species. Royal Exhibition Buildings. Royal Exhibition Buildings, located in the beautiful Carlton Garden in Melbourne City, is another World Heritage Site. The construction completed in 1880 when the World Exhibition was displayed in Melbourne. The Royal Exhibition Building was designed by the architect Joseph Reed, who also designed the Melbourne Town Hall and the State Library of Victoria. The dome was inspired by the dome of Florence Cathedral. The building hosted the opening of first Australian Parliament in 1901. The smaller portion of the building was demolished due to fire, but renovated in its original style and first building to be awarded as UNESCO World Heritage Site in Australia. It is near to and it is still used for special events. Australian War Memorial. Australian War Memorial is Australia's national memorial located in country's capital city of Canberra. The War Memorial dedicated to organizations died or participated in wars on behalf of Commonwealth of Australia. The Australian War Memorial was opened in the year 1941. The Australian War Memorial includes an extensive National Military Museum and is widely regarded as one of the most significant memorials of its type in the world. War Memorial consists of four main elements: the Anzac Parade, a commemorative area, a sculpture garden, and the distinctive memorial building. Shrine of Remembrance. Shrine of Remembrance is one of the largest war memorials in Australia, located in King's Domain, Melbourne. This war memorial was built as a memorial to men and women of Australia in particular. Victorians participated and lost their lives in many wars. Shrine of Remembrance is the site for celebrating annual observances of Anzac Day on 25th April in remembrance of Australians and New Zealanders who served and died in all wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations, and Remembrance Day on 11th November. Tourist transportation. Australia has all forms of transport services. Internationally, Australia is well connected by air transportation, but within the country, highly dependent on road and railway transportation. There are more than 300 airports with paved runways. Australia's domestic airlines like Qantas, Jetstar, Virgin Australia, Rex and other subsidiaries provide competitive and safe service between all state capital cities and regional cities. Travelling by air will be the best way to cover large distances in a short time to visit many places in Australia, particularly in the different regions. All major cities and towns of Australia have reliable, affordable and safe public transportation. Most of the cities have bus services on addition cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth have suburban train, which are the best ways of exploring cities for tourists. Passenger rail transport includes widespread commuter networks. There are many intercity and interstate railway networks. If tourists are travelling within one or two regions, road or train transportation will be the best option to explore the beauty of countryside. Drive. Australia has a vast network of well-maintained roads and some of the world's most beautiful tourist routes. Driving in these scenic roads itself is a thrilling and joyful tour for several adventure seekers. Tourists can hire self-driving cars on rent to drive in these roads to explore Australia. Some of the best touring routes are Sydney to Brisbane Road to see past sleepy seaside towns and lush hinterland, Australia's Red Centre in an epic drive across the desert, and most famous Victoria's Great Ocean Road as it hugs the spectacular southeast coast. There are reliable car rental companies available at major airports, central city locations, suburbs and resorts. Bus or coach. Coach and bus travel in Australia is comfortable, safe, easy and economical. Coaches generally have facilities such as air conditioning, reading lights, adjustable seats and videos. Services are frequent, affordable and efficient. Bus or coaches are frequently plying between the major cities and towns in the country. Rail. Train travel is a convenient, affordable and scenic way to explore Australia. Interstate and intrastate rail services connect cities and regional centres, while cross-country train trips offer a unique insight into Australia's size and diversity. Travelling options range from budget to luxury, and a range of rail passes can reduce travelling cost if travellers plan to see large sections of the country. Cruise and ferries. Travelling by cruise and small ferry is a wonderful way of experiencing Australia's beautiful water bodies. There are several world's best islands in Australia which are connected by mainland through ferries. Ferries connect several beautiful islands like Tasmania, Kangaroo Island and Fraser Island, etc. from mainland cities. Also, travelling in night ferries is a wonderful experience for tourists. Travel formalities. Visa. Visitors intended to stay abroad is an entry permit given by a country to enter or visit that particular country. Except New Zealanders, citizens of all countries are required to obtain visa to visit Australia. Citizens of some countries such as European countries and East Asian countries can obtain e-visitor authorization or e-visa. Australia follows the universal visa regime that every non-citizen of Australia must have a valid visa or entry permit. Following are some important types of visa issued by Australian embassies based on the purpose of visit: visitor visa, transit visa, medical treatment visa, working holiday visa, work and holiday visa, higher education sector visa, special program visa, permanent residency visa, resident return visa, special category visa and permanent resident of Norfolk Island visa.